There is one song from Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood that is perhaps the most beautiful of the entire series. It is one that you might consider to be painfully beautiful. Let's talk about why that is. Oh man, I mean, okay. So this piece was written by the incredible composer Akira Senju, and you can already hear the complexities of the string writing. I mean, it's not even the harmony that makes this so beautiful. It's all the inner workings of how it's orchestrated. Listen to this. Like those inner voice movements in the sort of middle strings, they're just astoundingly beautiful. So we have... that's our main melody, and as soon as we finish that, that's the call, and then we have the response to that. And you can see how the response leads right into the next melody note. It's perfect. Beautiful, and we haven't even started the melody. Now, what we're gonna see in Trisha's Lullaby is a classic, sad minor chord progression that utilizes 5 chords pretty frequently to get from one section to the next. And we'll see how they're used as we move through this. And there are a few things about how this is constructed that I think make it uniquely, painfully beautiful, and we'll talk about those in a second. Wow. Okay, so there's sort of our first A section, you might consider it, right? So we have... This is kind of an interesting chord progression because it is so sad. Yet, the first thing we hear after we establish our root F minor chord is we get a 5 chord leading into a major resolution, and that goes like this. Those are chords 2 and 3 of this song, right? Which is inherently minor, inherently sad, inherently dark, but yet we're setting up another 5 chord that you would expect leads us back to the home base of F minor, but instead we get that beautiful D flat major chord, right? And so we have F minor, E flat 7, A flat major, and then a little sus on the C7 before letting it become C7 dominant, and then brings us to D flat. Oof, what a beautiful chord. That sequence right there is uniquely beautiful because we're starting on this D flat major 7th sound, right? And we have that right there, that B flat minor, and it's kind of the same exact notes. I mean, when we look at the notes that are in D flat major 7, it's almost exactly the same as B flat minor 7. In fact, we can literally play the same notes and just change our root, and it's the same exact sound. So we have... here's that B flat minor 6 chord, or our G half diminished chord from the beginning before bringing it to that 5 chord. So we play that G half diminished before letting it go to our C7 chord. Now, what does that G half diminished do in that context? It's really simple. We're in F minor, and that G is literally just a 2, right? So when we talk about a 2-5-1, it doesn't actually matter what the quality of the chords are. They could be minor 7th, they could be half diminished like in this context, or they could be dominant. What matters is the root of the chord that we're playing. And in the context of F minor, which is, we're in F minor in this song, primarily, we're using a 2, and it happens to be half diminished, and then our 5. It's just a 2/5. Everything is just 2/5s. Now, of course, if you're familiar with the Fullmetal Alchemist story, you'll know that this is incredibly sad because it's the story of Trisha, who is the mother to the main characters, the Elric brothers. In this song, Trisha's Lullaby is a reflection of her death. So what you have here is a song that's basically two sons mourning the loss of their mother. When you put it into that context, I mean, this is just, it's a horribly sad song. And you don't even need to understand words to get that, because the harmony does a great job at portraying it. Okay, so this is like sort of the second section. It's very similar. The melody's almost identical to the first time through. However, we actually change our harmony. Whereas in the first time around, we went F minor, and then we set up with E flat major a resolution to A flat major before immediately taking us out of that and giving us a C dominant, D flat major 7, B flat minor, G half diminished. So that was our first time around, and now we're almost going to keep the melody exactly the same, but our chords change. Watch this. Now instead of going to E flat, now we have C, except it's not C with a C in the bass, it's C with an E in the bass. And we'll talk about why that is in a second. Now it's an E flat in the bass, but it's an A flat major chord. This we'll talk about in a second, but it's D in the bass. Check that out. All right, we need to talk about this because this is super, super cool. This is a great example of how we can have a directional moving bass line, and yet we can make our chords go all over the place. By using different notes of the chord as the root, we can create a consistent motion. Here's what I mean. If we have an F minor chord, and then we have a C major chord, well, that's not a consistent motion. We're jumping from F to C in order to play that. But what are the notes of C? We have a C, an E, and a G. So any one of those could be the root note. Just depends on the context, right? So if we choose to make E the root note, well, that's only a half step away from F, which means we can move slightly down from here to there. So this you could call a first inversion C major chord. From there, we get this. Now, we know it's just A flat major, so all we've done is we've used the fifth of A flat major as our root, and we've played a second inversion A flat major chord. Just like that. And then we can keep on going. This next chord, I gotta listen again, but it could be this, or it could be that. Let's find out. I think it's this, which is a D half diminished chord, but it could also be B flat dominant. It's one of those things where it almost doesn't really matter what we call it because they're kind of the same thing, right? If we look at the notes of B flat dominant, and then we look at the notes of D half diminished, it's like the same chord. We're just adding the B flat in there. So who cares really what we call it? We just know that that D is allowing us to continue our downward motion. And of course that's going to bring us to D flat, which we just use that same D flat major chord again. There it is. Back down to C. Huh? Now right there, that's really interesting because we've established this whole thing in F minor, but here we're going to change it because we need to jump off of this F chord to get to our next section. Now it's major, now we can make it dominant, which makes it a 5 chord leading to B flat minor. Listen to how that's done. So we've established F minor, but in order to get somewhere else, we're going to make it a dominant chord so we can get to a new place. B flat minor is sort of our new, it's not our home base necessarily, but it's leading us to that B flat minor. And now we kind of go right around the circle, the key circle. And then we simply turn this dominant again to get us back once more. Only this time, instead of going around like we did before, yeah. This is just such a great exercise in beautiful harmonic writing that just leads right into each section so seamlessly. Right back into our original melody again. This is the first version of the melody. Now we have our descending bass line. Yeah. There it is again. Now we have our instrumental interlude, right, around the same chord changes. So that's the majority of the song, actually. I mean, we're only less than halfway through it, but the rest of the song follows pretty much the exact same harmonies. So really what we have are three main sections where the first two are almost the exact same melody, just different chord changes. And that's a really great example of how to use harmony to create a new feeling, even if the melody stays the same. So each one of those first two sections develops the idea a little further and ultimately sets up this big expansion into the second main section. And you have this combination of harmonies that I think really illustrate the sadness of it while not fully just being dark and minor, right? Because there's a lot of major chords, and in fact there's a lot of major sounding melodies in here as well. And I think that's a really important aspect that makes this painfully beautiful and not just dark and sad. Like, listen to this. It's dark, it's sad, but then we have this emergence into the bridge. And this is beautiful. I mean, it is dark, but it's also not. Because, yes, we're going to land on a minor chord, right? This is our home base. Everything kind of works its way around back to this point, right? But it gets there via some melodies and harmonies that feel weirdly hopeful. That's just gorgeous. It's not sad necessarily without the context. Now the context, of course, makes it very sad, but I think it being a lullaby and being the mourning of the Elric brothers' mother, that's what really drives this home and allows the harmony to feel so much more impactful. It doesn't have to be explicitly just sad. It can be beautiful because it's a representation of their mother, who's this character who is beautiful and very loving and gentle and kind. So we're reminded of her in that context, but then we're also reminded that she's gone. It's just such brilliant writing, both melody and harmony from Akira Senju here. Then we get this is a little different. Yeah, that all we did is we went F minor to D flat major 7, B flat minor 7, and then our G half diminished to our C dominant chord. Ending on F minor. Oof. What a perfect representation of the feeling that we're supposed to be feeling about this plot point, this song, everything about it. It's just perfectly composed to give us this painfully beautiful, sad feeling. It's not overly complex, it's just the right amount of complex, because there's some incredible orchestration in here, some incredible counterpoint writing, counter melodies, beautiful string writing, beautiful harmonies, beautiful melodies. I mean, this is just absolutely hit the nail on the head. And of course, this is just one part of the Fullmetal Alchemist soundtrack, so we will have to revisit that and look through some other parts. But before we do that, I want to let you know that Black Friday might be over, but we still have an insane sale going on through the end of the year. It's our holiday sale, and it's over 70% off. If you want to get started playing the piano, if you've always dreamed of being able to play the piano, maybe you want to play things like this. My entire course library is where you want to get started, and you can get it all in one massive bundle for over 70% off. We also have smaller bundles depending on if you just want some of the more beginner stuff or if you want some of the more intermediate stuff. You can spend a little bit less and get the things that you mainly want to focus on. But we always love to do something big for the holidays so that you can get your hands on all of my course material at one of the biggest discounts that we ever do. So be sure to take advantage of it using the link in the description down below. And of course, that is the best way that you can support this channel, and I'm so appreciative of that support, so thank you. Your support is what makes it possible for me to do what I love to do, which is making this content for you guys. So thank you so much for your support. Let me know what else you'd like me to look at from the Fullmetal Alchemist soundtrack, and we will see you in the next video.